Have you ever noticed something strange? You can be the nicest person in the room, always there for others, always helping, always giving. But despite all your kindness, you end up feeling alone, misunderstood, or even invisible. Why does this happen? How does someone who's constantly looking out for others end up feeling so isolated? It's a paradox, right? You think that by giving, you should receive. You imagine that being kind and compassionate will create deep connections, bring people closer to you, and help you build lasting relationships. But that doesn't always happen, does it? Here's the harsh truth that no one likes to talk about. The reason nice people often end up alone is not because they're bad at relationships. It's because they forget about one crucial thing. They forget about themselves. You see, kindness is a beautiful thing. It's what makes the world go round, but it's also what can drain you if you're not careful. You get so caught up in the needs of others that you lose sight of your own. You give, and you give, and you give some more. But where's the return? What do you get in return for all that selflessness? Often, not much. When you don't set clear boundaries, when you don't take the time to check in with yourself, what happens is you begin to lose your sense of self-worth. You forget what it feels like to be valued for who you are, not just for what you can do for someone else. The truth is, being too nice can sometimes lead people to take you for granted. They might appreciate your kindness, but they won't always appreciate you. They begin to see you as someone who exists to help them, someone who will always be there when they need something. And while that's great in some ways, it's a trap. This is why it's so important to balance kindness with self-respect. When you give, it's vital to ask yourself, am I giving because I want to or because I feel obligated? Is this something I'm doing freely or because I don't know how to say no? Because if you constantly give without boundaries, if you constantly put others first without taking the time to prioritize your own needs, you'll eventually end up drained, empty, and feeling alone, even when you're surrounded by people. Let's talk about that feeling of being alone for a moment. It's not about being physically isolated. You can be in a room full of people and still feel incredibly alone. This happens when you're constantly giving to others but never receiving anything in return. You don't get that sense of connection because you're giving so much of yourself away that there's no space left for anyone to truly get to know you. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship, whether romantic, friendship, or family, where you feel like you're the one doing all the work? You're always checking in on the other person, always giving support, always making sure they're okay. But when it's your turn to share, or when you need someone to lean on, it feels like you're invisible. You end up feeling like you're the one holding the relationship together, but no one even notices. That's the problem. The imbalance in giving and receiving. Healthy relationships are built on mutual exchange, where both people give and receive in equal measure. But when you're always the one giving, you become exhausted, and the relationship becomes one-sided. So, how do you break this cycle? How do you stop being the nice person who ends up alone? It starts by valuing yourself first. I'm not saying to stop being kind or to stop caring for others, far from it. I'm saying that you need to start caring for yourself in the same way you care for others. You need to start setting boundaries and saying no when it feels right. You need to stop putting everyone else's needs ahead of your own because you are just as important. When you stop feeling like you're obligated to give, you free up space to receive. And that's the key. You have to allow yourself to receive. You have to believe that you are worthy of receiving love, support, and kindness just as much as anyone else. Because if you don't believe that, no one else will either. Start with small changes. Set a boundary. Practice saying no without feeling guilty. Ask for help when you need it. When was the last time you allowed someone else to take care of you the way you take care of them? And I don't mean in a transactional way, like, I helped you last week, so you owe me. I mean in a genuine, from-the-heart way. You may have been so focused on giving that you've forgotten how to receive. But here's the truth. You don't have to do it all by yourself. You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's okay to lean on others. It's okay to ask for what you need, to be vulnerable, to show up as your true self. But here's the trick. When you begin to value yourself, you teach others to value you too. You set the tone for the relationships in your life. People won't be able to take advantage of your kindness because they'll know that your time, your energy, and your love are precious. It's about respect. It's about self-respect. And guess what? The more you respect yourself, the more others will too. Relationships become stronger when both people are on equal ground, each giving and receiving in equal measure. And the best part? You won't feel drained or unseen anymore. You'll begin to attract the kinds of relationships that honor you for who you truly are, not just for what you do for others. People who appreciate you for your kindness, but also for your strength, your boundaries, and your ability to love and care for yourself. This process won't happen overnight, but every step you take toward valuing yourself, toward setting healthy boundaries, will bring you closer to the relationships you've always wanted. And guess what? You deserve those relationships. You are worthy of love, respect, and connection. So, if you're tired of feeling like the nice person who always ends up alone, it's time to make a change. It's time to start putting yourself first, because when you do, everything else will follow. People will start respecting you, loving you, and valuing you, not just for what you give, but for who you are. Remember this. Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Being kind doesn't mean losing yourself in the process. It means understanding your value, setting your boundaries, and recognizing that you deserve love and respect, just like everyone else. So take a moment today. Look at your relationships, your boundaries, your self-respect. What changes can you make today to ensure you're not giving away more of yourself than you're receiving? Start valuing you, because when you do, you'll find that the world will start valuing you too.